Alright class, in this lesson we're going to take a look at review of operations and composition of functions. First of all, a little reminder, when we see f of x or g of x, we're looking at functions. Now, really f of x is a y, g of x is also a y, and really we're saying y is equal to x squared plus 1, and over here we're saying y is equal to 3x plus 5. Now the reason we use f of x and g of x is so that we can differentiate between the left equation and the right equation. They're both equal to y, but they're two different y values because they're two different equations. And then we'll be asked to do composition of functions, which is, or function operations, which is just adding the two equations. Here it says f plus g of x. It really means take the f of x equation and add it to the g of x equation. And the f of x equation is x squared plus 1. And then we're adding that to the g of x equation, which is 3x plus 5. So all we have to do from here is combine like terms and get x squared plus 3x plus 6. The only like terms we had was the 1 and the 5 to make 6. So this is your answer for f plus g of x. Okay? Now I'm going to write that over here off the side, and now I'm going to take a look at f minus g of x. F minus g of x is the same thing as f of x minus the g of x function. So in other words, I'm supposed to take my f of x, which was x squared plus 1, and subtract the g of x equation, which was 3x plus 5. Now the biggest mistake that I'll have is that people will write it just like I did right now without putting parentheses. Now the reason I put parentheses is because you're going to need to take this negative sign and distribute it to the 3 and to the 5. Okay? So now I can go ahead and do that and rewrite this to be x squared plus 1 minus 3x minus 5. So we're going to get a different answer than the f plus g of x. Our answer here is going to be x squared minus 3x minus 4. Now I'll go ahead and erase and write that next to the right next to my f minus g of x here. As you can see, so far we have two different answers. We have f plus g of x looks like x squared plus 3x plus 6, and then we have f minus g of x, which is x squared plus 3x minus 4. Now what we're supposed to do is two different problems. It says f plus g of 1, and then the second one is f minus g of negative 3. Well, in order to do these problems, you actually have to do what we did so far, which is take the f function and add it to the g, and then what we're supposed to do now, after we've done that, says put a 1 in there for x. Basically, you can hopefully see the difference between these two. This one has an x, this one on the right has a 1. All that means you're supposed to do is take all these x's and replace them with a 1. And so we do that. We write x squared plus 3 times, x squared, 1 squared. So 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 6. So notice I just put the 1's where there was x's, and then you simplify. And that's going to give us 1 squared is 1, plus 3 times 1 is 3, plus 6, and then I just add that all together and I get 10. So that means my answer for f plus g of 1 is 10. And again, what I had to do is add the f and the g equations, like I did here, and then plug the whatever number I had for x. And I'll do the exact same thing for this f minus g down at the bottom. The only difference is I'm putting a negative 3 in to this equation here. So now I plug it in, and I get negative 3 squared minus 3 times negative 3 minus 4. I'm going to erase and give myself a little more room. Sorry, I rewrote it there to give myself a little more space to see it. We've got negative 3, and we're squaring it, so that should give me positive 9. And then we've got negative 3 times negative 3, which is going to give me another positive 9. And then we've got minus 4. So now we just go ahead and add, and 9 plus 9 minus 4 gives me 14. Okay, so that means my f minus g of 3 is 14. Okay. So as you can see, there's two different types of problems. There's one where you just have a variable in your answer, and the second type is where you actually have to do the variable work and then go ahead and plug in another answer. So we're going to take a look at some more, but these times instead of addition and subtraction, we're going to do multiplication and division. In the first one, we've got f and g together. Now what that means is you're supposed to actually take your f of x function and times it by your g of x function. So that means now notice we have the same equations up top. We take my x squared plus 1 and you times it by your 3x plus 5. Okay? And then we actually have to FOIL this and multiply it out. So I take my x squared, times it by my 3x, and I'll get 3x to the third. I take my x squared and times it by my 5, and I should get 5x squared. And then I take my 1 times my 3x, and I should get 3x. And 1 times 5, I should get 5. Okay, and now if I had like terms, I'd combine them, but I don't, so I leave it just like that. So this is actually my answer for f of g of x. Okay. Now, some of your problems will look just like that, and that'll be the answer, and others, they'll actually put f times g of 5. Okay. Well, now there's two ways to do it. Either I could do what I just did on the last problem first, and then put a 5 in the solutions, or in for all the x's, or I could actually take my 5 and put it in for this equation and over here for this equation, and then multiply the answer. Either way should give me the same solution. So I should go ahead and take my 5 and I'll plug it into each one of these x's here. And so I should get 3 times 5 to the third plus 5 times 5 to the second plus 3 times 5 plus 5. Okay, so now we just work that out on a calculator, and we should end up with 520. Okay, now just so you know, you can take it the other way and plug in my 5 here first. If I plug in my 5 here, I'm going to get 26, and then if I plug in 5 here, I would get 20. And so basically what you're saying is you can take this answer and times it by this answer, and that would end up with the same 520. So you could either multiply the two equations together first, or you can plug the number in first and then multiply the two solutions after that, the f answer and the g answer. In other words, you could basically rewrite the problem to be f of 5 times g of 5. So the answer from f of 5 was 26, and then we would times that by g of 5, which was 20, and that gives us our 520. Okay? So, that being said, I'm going to do the second problem here, the division problem, backwards. In other words, I'm going to start with f over g of 0, and then I'll go back and show you that we'll get the same answer if we do it the other way first. Okay? So, the way that looks, what this really could be rewritten as, is we could write f of 0 divided by g of 0. Okay? Which means I need to plug 0 in for x here on the f and on the g. And what happens is I get 0 squared plus 1, which is just 1. And then I have 3 times 0 plus 5, and the answer should be 5. So really, what I'm looking for is g of 0 is 1 over, f of 0 is 1, and g of 0 is 5. So my solution is going to be 1/5 when I plug 0 after I divide my two functions. Okay? And we'll show how that works also if I do the division of the functions first. So the actual division of the functions means I'm supposed to take the f function, f of x, divided by g of x. Okay? F of x is x squared plus 1, and g of x is 3x plus 5. Okay. Now this problem is actually a really simple version of a division problem because there's actually no reducing I can do at this step. Now, what we're going to end up looking for is factors. If I could factor the top or factor the bottom using magic X or some other method, greatest common factor, I would want to look for things that the top and the bottom have in common. But there isn't anything here, so that's as far as I go. And if I wanted to, I could check my other answer. I could plug in my 0, but you already know that this answer is 1, and this answer is going to be 5. So when you divide them, you'll get that answer for f divided by g of 0.